it's me, Renita, producer for That's a Doobie podcast and principal officer at the Doobie Room. We began this podcast at the onset of the coronavirus pandemic, and like many of you, we all had to adjust, which meant a break from recording That's a Doobie podcast. And while many of us are choosing to social distance whenever we can and to work remotely, we decided to toy around with IG Live and podcasting, meaning we're going to try recording our podcast using IG Live. So for this episode of That's a Doobie podcast, Omari and Keyston, who are also principal officers at the Doobie Room, got together on IG Live to talk about what happened. And when I say what happened, I'm talking about what happened with the dispensary lottery announcement and the fallout with that, the chaos surrounding the veteran points, and they also talked about how it felt to come together with other social equity applicants and what's next for the Doobie Room. Here we go.
Man, what's going on though? What's going on?
What's going on with this industry, man, in Illinois?
Oh, bruh.
I know you got a lot to say. You've been deep into it.
Yeah.
Especially, like, I got to give you so much props, man, being like a serious driving force for our team.
Man.
And learning so much, attending, as many events and conferences and everything, man. You've been around all over the place with this, man.
Man, no problem. I appreciate it. I love you guys and I love the team and I love the business. The thing is cannabis and, even in the hemp, there's huge benefits for it, the health and wellness aspect of it. But even the social economical aspect, folks working in dispensaries, there's huge job opportunities, there's employment, entrepreneurship opportunities in there. It can literally change the whole landscape of a community and of people. So, to me, it's not even work. It's just a passion.
That's good. That's the passion. That's the passion that drives you, man. I'm loving it, man.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it, man.
Man, go ahead.
All right, so just kind of give a real quick brief recap of what's been going on. All right, let's talk about the issues that caused all this uproar. First, the process drag, man. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it drugged a little bit, or I don't know if it was intentional. We got the whole pandemic thing, so a lot of businesses, there was a complete shift in how everyone did operations. So yeah, the state and IDFPR, they could ride on that, but that's part of that risk plan. When you fulfill those requests, those RFPs, when you're looking for a contract with the state, you better have a contingency plan for everything, national emergencies and whatnot included. But there wasn't a plan in place. So we give them some slack on the dispensary. They should have gotten it right,
They should have got it right, absolutely. And then the whole management group, I kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. Was it a group that's outside the country, based in the Netherlands? So travel restrictions, all that, I give them that. But
Right. You saying all the right things, all the questions that should have been asked, or maybe they were. I don't know. The company was a KPMG. They're auditing company. Accounting stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we have the mechanisms in place, and we have the technology and tools in place to grade fairly. Obviously, the state thought that they were capable. The thing was trying to figure out, what was the mandate or the parameters in which they, requested RP or KPMG to grade these applications for, IDFPR and dispensary round.
So then you had another issue that caused some, and all the time, like, we had hope that Illinois would do what they said they would do with equity.
I love that we hope.
we hope. But in the back of our minds, I know for me, for sure, that it was like Illinois is going to be Illinois. So then when this happened in August, they allowed 2 dispensaries to open. Yeah, one in Schaumburg, which is the largest one in Illinois. And then the one on the north side was that Bucktown that they approved to move forward. So when I heard that, I was like, here they go. Here they go. So then we get to early September. Then that's when the news dropped, man. What did you feel about it?
I didn't see the Doobie Room in there, and I was like, wait, hold on, what's going on? Because we didn't have any deficiency notices. That was my first thought. I was like, this can't be right. I was like, 'cause
Yeah,
if we're talking about a perfect score, we ain't get no deficiency notices. The assumption is we had a perfect score.
right. And
But
that was the thing that was in my mind was like, all right, these coming out, and we didn't get a deficiency notice, so that means we good, right?
right. And then so, when it looked at and tried to request the scores and we didn't get the scores, then the spidey senses started kicking off. I was like, oh, hold up. But I do want to say this, congratulate to all the folks who did win a ticket to the lottery. You
Yeah.
know, just as much as we put in, as tons of effort, resources, sweat, blood, tears, carpal tunnel folks typing on the computers and stuff. There was a lot of work to put in to get to that point to even be graded as a perfect score. So commend those folks who did all that because we know we did just as much work. But yeah, when I came out, oh man, I was hurt. I was hurt. But then the business mind kicked in, and I was like, okay, well, let's figure out what went wrong on our part. Didn't do any projections or anything. It's like, okay, look, let's figure out what we need to do to get prepared for the next round or for some of the other states that we're applying in. And then that's when things started to slide down that slippery slope of, oh, well, you can't get your scores and inconsistency in scores. And I was just like, okay, well.
Right. And it's like, how do you say you're going to do all this and then not release any scores, inconsistency with the deficiency notices? So like for people, I know we got people that follow us from outside of Illinois. Just to let you know, 21 applicants got awarded to move on to the lottery or got the ticket to the lottery for 75 licenses. So 21. And how many applications was there, Keyston, altogether? Was it over 4,500?
Oh yeah, it's about 4,500, somewhere around there. It's crazy. Like 700 total applicant groups, and over 45 actual individual applications for dispensaries. So numbers is up there.
Going back, what was that slippery slope that you mentioned?
Yeah, that was it. So first you didn't get the score. You was like, okay, and then you got to, jump through hoops, tap dance, call a friend of a friend, and still, you get no score. And then when we finally did get the score, there was like, okay, there were points taken off that we didn't get any deficiency notices for. I was like, well, that's odd, because after talking to some of the folks, first they got their scores, so there's some inconsistency right there. The next thing is that they got deficiency notices on points and exhibits that they have points taken off from, and now we have points taken off on the same exhibit with no deficiency notice. So we're trying to figure out, well, maybe that was just an accident. And then, so we took the right proper steps, It's
Trying
like,
to keep it positive, right?
right. It's like, yo, IDFPR, what's going on? And then they was on vacation with their automatic auto dial response. And so that's when, after talking to a couple of other groups and, the attorneys were just like, yo, this is, some don't smell right. So some of the other groups, and they were feeling the same kind of way.
Yeah.
And the thought is like, how do we get some answers before this lotto takes place and these applications be awarded? And so that's when some of the suits started coming out to challenge the actual results, because there is no way to really contest it on the IDFPR, on the dispensary round. On the craft grow and the transportation infusion license, there's a process, once those results come out to challenge it. But in the dispensary round, there was none, except for litigation, which was detailed in the law. And so that was a process that was taken with the initial suit filed, I guess, with South Shore.
Okay, man, the uproar was fair and warranted, from different organizations and the applicants. You had man, several legislators in the state that spoke out against it. You had, a lot of lawsuits that got started from it. And, one sticking point that I saw was the last minute high scores given to veteran statuses.
Yeah.
And that was like, I think one of the major issues that I saw between different groups of, who may have had a veteran that didn't like really publicize that, because the social equity piece, like where you live, seemed like that was the biggest thing. But then they kind of threw us a curveball with the veteran status, even though we absolutely have veterans on our team. But that kind of that hurt some other organizations or teams as well.
Yeah, and I'll speak to that. I wouldn't say it was a curveball because it was in the regulation, it was in the legislation,
Okay.
and it was in the application. It said optional. Maybe that was just misleading. But listening to many of the I guess workshops, whether it be Trep School or any of the legal counsel or even Tom and GTI and their incubators that they had open to the public, they all said optional isn't optional. You're in a contest, a competitive contest. If there's something in there that you gonna get some optional points for, and it's gonna be graded out of a perfect, go and get that perfect. That's like going to class and it's like, I'm not gonna do extra credit. You never know. But yeah, when it comes to the veteran aspect, we got veterans in the crew. We just happen to know folks, so we put them on there. For some of the other groups who didn't have veterans, those points they hurt. So you're gonna look at ways. Well, how can this not hurt as much? And you say, well, just remove the veteran aspect. Heard a lot of things about, veterans weren't affected by the war on drugs. And I stay objective. I stay real objective on that. And I just try to use some good sense. And I say, well, I understand social equity is based upon, living in disproportionately impacted areas, being affected by the war on drugs. And, I served in the Army proudly. A lot of my brothers and sisters served in the Army, some in the Marines. I got family in the Navy. We invite them every once in a while, the family dinners.
I didn't know you had that deep of a family in the military.
Oh yeah. And then also, I get civil servants, some of them are cops, sheriffs, and all that stuff. But when it comes to the veteran aspect, and the contention or the contesting of veterans weren't impacted by the war on drugs, I disagree, because I can tell you tons of folks that I served with who were in service, alongside of me. They're like, man, I had to join the military to get out of the neighborhood that I was in, and then it went to war, and then some of them came back, and the neighborhood was still the same thing. So you're still affected. So I had one individual, a couple of individuals, they were like, well, it's like the chicken before the egg. Did you leave the military and join because of the environment? And you say yes, so you're affected by the war on drugs. Now, or they say, well, did the environment after being a veteran, have the effect on you? And you say yes, it's still. Like, okay, so there should be no preference points for being a veteran because it's solely based on social equity being impacted by the war on drugs.
Yeah,
very interesting. It's tricky, but the state of Illinois, they give veteran preference for state contracts, as well as some of the cities in the county. Same thing with minority-owned business, woman-owned businesses, black-owned or whatever businesses, the MBE, VBE certification. But yeah, it's tough. If you didn't have a veteran on the application, and get those points, you weren't getting perfect score. The problem is some folks had veterans and they still didn't get the veteran points. So back to the process, which is a big challenge.
That's what I want to move to, the process, and for you to talk more about that, like the discrepancy in scoring. Some groups got something over other groups, but they look, had the same, had a veteran and didn't get those points, and a lot of different discrepancies between applications where some people got points and others didn't. Kind of dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can tell you what I know, but I wasn't on the other end of the computer grading those applications. I had that, cheat sheet of how or rubric of how they're supposed to be grading it. But the process was wild, from what we're hearing, from other folks that applied that I know, some folks put in for veterans, didn't get points. Some folks didn't have veterans, got points. Some folks didn't get, Illinois residency, but got social equity. My question is, well, in order to be social equity, qualify for that, you got to be an Illinois resident. So how do you get social equity points and not, residency points?
Did they think people wasn't going to check, like look at the scores?
I make no presumptions about what they thought. All they can do is ask. And then when you tell me, I was like, okay.
I'm like so confused on the whole process of scoring, but I know we just speculating. And I saw that what did he put it in there? Billionaire Bruce Ray, he said that they were pre-approved. People that already got that got put through was pre-approved, and that's the feeling that we get. It's hard to fight that feeling to say that it was already a setup, and then when you see the discrepancies in scores and so forth, like it only enhances what your thoughts is and your anxiety about working with the state of Illinois.
Well, and I always want to dispel any negative projection on an entity in its totality, So it's all of the state. There are a lot of good folks in the state that are doing the right thing and pushing for it. The folks who pushed for this legislation, the ones who pushed and lobbied to get, inclusivity in this legislation.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of good folks who wanted this to come out right, just a short time frame. And then, just maybe there wasn't enough consideration on certain aspects of how this process was going to be rolled out, and they were on a time crunch. So I'm not excusing them, though. Definitely not excusing them, because we done a lot of things in service on a very quick time scale to efficiency. But you can always evolve, and that's the approach that we expect the state and the parties that be, to put forth. Is, let's let this evolve. Let's learn some lessons. Let's correct as much as we can here to make it as fair as possible. And I think that's what JB is trying to do by putting a little halt on it, stepping in, and then allowing for some of these corrections to happen.
Man, you made some great points. Man. Coming up to current, like with JB and his statement, would you say that you would trust him at his word?
Oh man, you put me on the spot.
All right, we'll skip past that. All right. We might not want to put that in right now. We might not want to go there right now.
I'm gonna answer it like this. He is, the head of the state, and he charged as the head of the state to have the best interest of the Illinoisans, the residents of the state of Illinois. So,
okay.
If he doesn't know something and it's not to the best interest, it's our job to inform him, and then expect that him and his support and his staff make the best decision with new information for the betterment of whatever entity process that is happening in his, preview. So I'll put it to you like that.
Yeah.
I got one more thing to say, though. in the military, we got this thing to, you trust but verify. So I'll add that in too. But I'll trust that they'll do it, but we definitely want to check and verify.
Okay. All right. So from my end, speaking, from community ag perspective, having those different community engagement sessions that we had at the end of last year, the beginning of this year, talking about the law with, people within the communities on the South Side, bringing in other entities. We had CPD, we had doctors, we had community leaders.
Cops, right. Police officers, right.
And frustration from people in the community is that if we're talking equity, we don't see it as they're just hiring us to work. We want to own.
No, that's indentured servitude, man. Equity. We want a piece of the pie. We don't want to just make it and serve it.
Right. That's the frustration, is that we took the time, a lot of groups, not just talking about Doobie Room, but groups like hearing from them, they took the time, did everything that they were supposed to do. And then you still see the big businesses get the opportunity for the licenses. We know that during that 4-month delay, some of these companies that already have their dispensaries were making big money, where they were hitting records each month during this time in gross revenue sales. And it's like, when are we going to be able to get into the game, so to speak? Right
now, I'm gonna answer that question with right now. I'm doing exactly what we're doing. Creating a space for dialogue, having the network and the reach to be able to present some of these, disparities or discrepancies, and then, having the leverage to, foster change. You got to know the process. You got to know, what you can and can't do. The parameters that they built this law and legislation in. Yeah, there might have been some gaps in there, but we got to know it too. And if we don't know it in and out, and they're just exploiting and utilizing the law to fulfill what it is that they want to achieve. What's the difference between us? Understanding the law and exploiting it and achieving what we want. It's the law. We're going by the law. The problem is that, I'll just divert back to that. Do you want to get those bonus points? Have you done the due diligence, the extra work, the ins and outs? You get that optional, yes, there is going to be, I think, Jamal said it yesterday. He's like, there's an advantage to being first in. There is an advantage.
Yeah.
You're going to take those lumps before everyone else. But as other folks get in, you're going to be seen as, a sure thing. So there always is going to be an advantage. They were the first ones in. We can debate all day long of why they were the first ones in and, kind of the barriers and obstacles that were placed in there. I think, I can speak to that all day, but they were there. So when it comes out to, was it the recreational and then rolling out some of the new laws and licenses, the state's, of course, going to give a little bit of favoritism because the state's looking at one thing. We need revenue. And this is going to generate revenue, for the state for taxes. So, yes, these operators, they've already made and proven themselves. And then you look at any business. Yeah. 93% of businesses fail within the first year, 2 years. These businesses that are already there have been up 3-4 years, right? So they're proven. The ones that are there are going to be there, So it's tricky. I'm trying to look at it from how the state's viewing it, not just from us, because I can tell you how I view it as a, individual looking at getting into the cannabis game, the cannabis industry, as a member of a Doobie Room, as, I was not pleased with it, I wasn't pleased. I wasn't excited about the process. There's a lot to be done, but on the state side, if you're looking at, okay, well, we got to make it the best outcome for the state of Illinois and getting revenue, let's bet on a sure thing. And we can sprinkle in a couple of the others along the way, is my thoughts, is how the state sees it. Now, this is just me being presumptuous and going in that way. Is it right? No. Is it the dream that they sold social equity, potential entrepreneurs? Heck no.
Thanks for tuning in so far, and make sure you follow us on Instagram at the Doobie Room. And after you follow us, be sure to join us this coming up Sunday, October 11th at 12 p.m. Central Time as we join Shewuna Dedeji, CEO of Elevate, as we talk about his successful leap from Nigeria to Chicago all the way into the cannabis industry. We also want to take this moment to shout out one of our followers on Instagram at Rise Naperville GTI Workers, who successfully answered one of our trivia questions on September 22nd. The prize? A shout out on our next podcast. That's why it's important that you follow us on Instagram, because you never know when we'll have an opportunity for you to answer something fun and get a shout out on That's a Doobie. All right, let's get back to this conversation with Omari and Keyston on the Illinois dispensary lottery announcement.
We were disappointed, but now we're a little bit more hopeful.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's the process, and that's what I love about the Doobie Room. We've always been pushing the community. You've always been pushing the community, get engaged, be informed, know all the ins and outs, and
that's the name of the game, being informed. That's it.
The more you know, the better you are. So if we go be in this competition in this cannabis space, we got to know everything that has happened, for the fight for the entry into cannabis. And then this isn't it, though. That's one thing I just want to, make sure that the audience and everyone knows. I know I say it to the Doobie Room, and y'all know the application ain't the business. If you think the fight was tough getting in, wait until you in the fight.
Wait until you in the fight. But in my opinion, it's worth it. It's worth it. For opportunity.
Bob and weave.
Yep.
We all in it together, so that's another thing which has been so amazing to watch, Illinois social equity applicants bind and align together for the cause of, hey,
yes,
they were wronged, were wronged, we were wronged. Let's fix this so we can get some right. Everyone ain't gonna be right. But there should be a lot more of us that are right, are made whole in this sense. So it's been beautiful to watch social equity applicants bind together to get into this.
And just piggybacking off of what you said, it wasn't like we all just packed up our bags and said, oh, well, it's over with. That was so beautiful that people got together and said, this is not right. Shoot, what we got was able to get on a call with LaShawn Ford and Kathleen Willis, and them to kind of help fight for us, and it's just been a collection. So it came to a point that JB had to address it. Right. He had to say, we need to get this right, So for those that's listening, Doobie Room, we stayed in.
I do want to give a shout out to John Lovey, who challenged and was a shield for social equity applicants and also a spear, I guess, if you will. By being really quick and proactive. Well, I would say proactive, because the way he got that suit out real quick, he
real quick.
Knew something was going on, right? They were like, he was like, hold on.
Hey, before I even knew it, I was like, oh, I got to get this information. I got to house trying to find this information.
Hey, trust but verify. But that was to taking that charge and being really quick and getting it out there. There are some other suits that were, followed up, and that's commendable as well, because it's for the community. Again, not everyone's gonna win, but to be able to say, hey, let's slow this down for a little bit, and let's just make sure this was graded correctly. It's human error. You can have all the systems in place, but there can be some human error. It may not be malice, It may not be out of negligence, but maybe complacency. But let's check and figure out what it is. But big shout out to John Lovey and his team for presenting that information to the state, and then reaching out to social equity applicants and enlisting their support, to empower them to make this stand, because at the end of the day, if there weren't enough individuals willing to step forward and say, hey, no, let's challenge this. This isn't right. You know, when you're talking about the Doobie Room and we didn't, just pack up and leave, a lot of organizations didn't pack up and leave either. They were like, oh, yeah, you out there, I'm going to stand right next to you. And that goes back to that beauty of this whole social equity, cast in Illinois, as I like to call them, the people. And, we have the result that's here, which is we had a pause. We got, a delayed lotto. We have some revisions and some oversight on the grading, dissemination of scores and deficiencies. And then with some consistency.
To wrap up, that leads to what's next for us. So you start talking about the ones that's coming up. Right?
Oh, man.
Talking about the ones that's coming up, and we can wrap on that. We talk about the ones that's coming up, what we got going with these other states. And then, we can save some more for the next episode.
Absolutely. Give them a little teaser. I get you. So, coming up, the Doobie Room. Like I said, Doobie Room is a brand. It's a group of people. It's a community. There are 33 different states with legal legislation for recreational or medical cannabis use, and we're exploring those opportunities. So what's coming up? We got round 2 and we got round 3 in Illinois. We're definitely gonna be in that, and y'all gonna see a Doobie Room soon. Don't worry. Get your doobies and smoke one, eat one, however you decide to do it. Put it in one of those little air freshener thingies, and leave it in your house, not your car.
Still not allowed.
Still not allowed.
Hey, one day we're gonna be able to give JB a doobie.
Man, I'll be right there.
Yeah, right.
He got to buy it though.
Hey, I love that business video. I love that business sense. Well, you know what? Of course he's got to buy it because we can't give away no free doobies.
Hey, you're right. All right, man. Doobie out.
Doobie.